My name is Robert, and I am a father who learned the hard way that sometimes the most powerful revenge is simply letting someone believe they've won. The kitchen smelled like coffee and bacon. It was Saturday morning, and I was standing at the stove, flipping the last few strips while the eggs scrambled in the pan. The house was quiet except for the sounds of the clock on the wall, and the occasional car passing by on the street outside. I had been making breakfast for my son and his fiancée every other weekend for the past 2 years. It was our thing. A tradition that started when he first brought her home to meet me. She had come over that first night with a polite smile and a bottle of wine. She was pretty in a sharp way, with dark hair pulled back and eyes that seemed to take in everything at once. I had liked her at first. I thought she was ambitious. I thought she pushed my son to be better. Over the months that followed, I started to notice things. Small things at first. The way she would correct him in front of me. The way she would answer questions I asked him, before he had a chance to speak. The way she would touch his arm or his shoulder, a little too often, a little too possessive. I told myself I was being paranoid. I told myself this was just how young couples were. I told myself I was just not used to sharing my son with someone else. But the visits became less frequent. The phone calls became shorter. The excuses became more elaborate. She had work events. She had deadlines. She had family obligations. My son would apologize on her behalf, and I would say it was fine, and I would mean it, until I would hang up the phone and sit in my chair and feel the silence of the house close in around me. I was 63 years old. My wife had been gone for 5 years. My son was all I had left. The first real fight happened 8 months before the wedding. It was a Sunday afternoon, and I had come over to their apartment to drop off a gift I had bought for them. A set of china for their new home. It was my mother's china, the good stuff that had been in our family for generations. I had wrapped it carefully in paper and packed it in a box. My son had answered the door with a look on his face like he was caught between something and somewhere. He had taken the box from me and set it on the table by the door. He had not asked me in. "We need to talk about the wedding," he said. "Okay," I said. "What about it?" He had looked back toward the living room, where she was sitting on the couch, and then back at me. "She wants to keep it small," he said. "Just close family." "That's fine," I said. "How small?" "Like 30 people," he said. I had blinked at him. My side of the family alone was bigger than that. My wife had 3 brothers and 2 sisters, and they all had children, and those children had children. I had cousins and aunts and uncles. I had friends from the neighborhood and from work. 30 people total? I asked. "It's just what she wants," he said. "And I think it makes sense. It's more intimate. It's more about us than about a big party." I had looked at him for a long moment. I had wanted to ask him whose side he was on. I had wanted to ask him if he remembered his mother, if he remembered what she would have wanted. But I had kept my mouth closed, because I had learned a long time ago that fighting with your children only pushes them further away. "Okay," I said. "Whatever you want." He had nodded. He had said thank you. He had closed the door. The guest list fight happened 3 months later. She had sent me an email with the names of the people she wanted invited. It was 12 names. 12. My son had 67 names on his side. I had counted them myself. I had called my son to talk about it. I had tried to be calm. I had tried to be reasonable. "I just think we should invite more people from your side," I said. "This is your wedding. It's supposed to be about both families. Dad, we talked about this," he said. "We want it small. It's just what works for us." "But 67 down to 12? I said. "That's not small. That's not even a quarter." He had gone quiet on the other end of the line. Then she had spoken. I could tell she had taken the phone from him. "Robert, I think you need to respect what we've decided," she said. "This is our wedding, not yours. We've made our choices, and we would appreciate it if you could support them." The way she said my name? The way she said it like it was a word she had just learned. Like it was a word she did not like the taste of. I had opened my mouth to say something. I had closed it again. I had said okay. I had said fine. I had hung up the phone and stood in my kitchen and felt the walls of the house press in on me. The next few months were a blur of planning and phone calls and emails that went unanswered or replied to late or not at all. I had offered to pay for the venue. I had offered to pay for the catering. I had offered to pay for the flowers. Each time, she had come back with a reason why my offer would not work. The venue was already booked. The caterer was already chosen. The florist was already selected. I had started to feel like I was trying to push my way into something that had already happened without me. I had started to feel like I was the problem. Then, 2 weeks before the wedding, my son had come to see me. He had sat in my kitchen and drunk the coffee I made him. He had looked around the room like he was looking for something that was not there anymore. "Dad, I need to ask you something," he said. "Okay," I said. "She wants to know if you would give a speech at the wedding," he said. I had felt a surge of something in my chest. Hope, maybe. Or relief. Or just the feeling of being included. "Of course," I said. "I would be honored. But she has some guidelines," he said. "Guidelines?" "Just things she wants you to talk about. Things she wants you to not talk about." I had looked at him. I had waited. "Don't mention Mom," he said. "She thinks it's too sad. She wants the day to be happy." I had felt something cold move through me. My wife. My son's mother. The woman who had raised him. The woman who had died in this house, in the bed upstairs, with my son holding her hand. "Your mother, Dash," I started. "I know, Dad," he said. "But that's what she wants. It's her day. Can you just do this for me?" I had looked at my son. I had looked at his face, which was so much like his mother's face. The same eyes. The same jaw. The same way of looking at me like he was asking me to save him from something. "Okay," I said. "I won't mention her." The night before the wedding, I could not sleep. I lay in my bed and stared at the ceiling and listened to the house settle. I had the speech in my head. I had practiced it a dozen times. I had written it down and crossed things out and written it again. I was supposed to give it at the reception. 600 people, she had decided at the last minute. 600 people, but only 12 from my side. I had asked my son about it, and he had said it was her dream wedding, and he wanted her to have her dream. At around 10 o'clock, my phone had rang. It was her. Not my son. Her. "Robert," she said. "We need to talk." "Okay," I said. "What about?" "I want you to know something," she said. Her voice was calm. Cold. Like ice. "After tomorrow, you're not part of this family." I had lain there in my bed, the phone in my hand, and I had felt the words hit me like a physical thing. Like a slap. Like a door slamming shut. "What do you mean?" I asked. "I mean exactly what I said," she said. "You're too much. You're too involved. You're too in the way. This is my family now. My and him. And I don't have room for you." I had tried to speak. I had tried to say something. But the words would not come. "I'm not trying to be in the way," I finally said. "I just want to be there for my son." "Be there from a distance," she said. "Be there when we ask you to. Be there when it's convenient. That's how this is going to work." She had hung up. I had lain in my bed for a long time. I had stared at the ceiling and listened to the silence. I had thought about my wife. I had thought about my son as a baby, as a boy, as a young man. I had thought about all the times I had driven him to practice and sat in the stands and cheered for him. I had thought about all the times I had helped him with his homework and taught him to ride a bike and played catch in the yard. I had thought about what she had said. I had thought about what she had asked me to do. I had thought about the speech I had written, the one that did not mention his mother, the one that was full of nothing but empty words. At around 2 in the morning, I had gotten up. I had gotten dressed. I had gone downstairs and made myself a cup of coffee. I had sat at the kitchen table and thought some more. Then I had made a decision. I had called my son. He had answered on the third ring, sounding half asleep. "Dad?" he said. "What's wrong?" "I can't do it," I said. "Do what?" "The wedding. I can't come." There had been silence on the other end of the line. Then, "What do you mean you can't come?" I had taken a breath. "I mean I'm not coming. I'm sorry. Dad, you have to come. Everything is ready. Everyone is here. The wedding is in 8 hours." "I know," I said. "But I can't be there. Not like this." He had started to say something. Then I had heard her voice in the background. It was muffled, but I could hear what she was saying. She was saying something like, "Good," and something like, "Finally. I'll explain later." I said, "I'm sorry." I had hung up. The next morning, I had not turned on the TV. I had not picked up the phone. I had gone outside and walked around the yard, looking at the garden, looking at the fence I had built 3 years ago, looking at the spot where my wife's garden used to be. Around noon, my phone had rang. It was my brother. "Did you hear?" he said. "Hear what?" "The wedding. It didn't happen." I had stood there in my yard, the phone in my hand, and I had felt something move through me. Not satisfaction, exactly. Not happiness. Something else. Something quieter. "What happened?" I asked. "Nobody knows for sure," he said. "The story is she showed up at the venue and just started screaming. At him. At everyone. Something about money. Something about the prenup. Nobody really knows." He had kept talking. I had stopped listening. The next few weeks I learned more. The story that came out in pieces, from my brother, from my cousins, from the few people on my son's side who still talked to me, was this. She had been angry about something. Something about the money. Something about the wedding costs. Something about who was paying for what. She had wanted my son to ask me for more money. She had wanted me to pay for the house they were going to buy, the house she had picked out, the house that was in a neighborhood she liked. She had wanted me to pay for everything. But my son had not asked me. He had told her no. He had told her that he had his own money, that he had been saving, that they would figure it out together. She had not liked that. She had not liked being told no. At the wedding, in front of 600 people, she had started to yell. She had called him names. She had called his family names. She had said things that could not be unsaid. He had tried to calm her down. He had tried to get her to stop. But she would not stop. Finally, he had walked away. He had walked out of the venue and down the street, and into a bar and sat there and drunk until he could not see straight. By the time he had come back, she had already left. She had taken her things from the hotel room. She had taken the car they had bought together. She had taken everything she could carry. I had waited for my son to call me. I had waited for weeks. I had sat in my house and watched the phone and waited. Finally, 3 weeks after the wedding that was not, he had called. "Dad," he said. "I'm sorry." "For what?" I asked. "For everything," he said. "For not listening. For not seeing what was right in front of me." I had taken a breath. "Are you okay?" "No," he said. "But I'm going to be." We had talked for a long time. He had told me everything. The things she had said to him. The things she had done. The way she had been controlling him, manipulating him, making him feel small. He had told me he was sorry he had not listened to me. He had told me he knew, even then, that something was wrong, but he had been too afraid to admit it. I had listened. I had let him talk. I had not said, "I told you so." I had not said anything like that. I had just listened. Then I had said something I had been waiting to say for a long time. "You know," I said, "your mother knew. The first time she met her, your mother knew. She told me to be patient. She told me to wait. She said you would figure it out. He had started to cry. I had heard it through the phone, the sound of him trying to hold it back and failing. I know, Dad, he said. I know. The revenge, if you can call it that, was not what she expected. It was not dramatic. It was not violent. It was not anything like what you see in movies. The revenge was simple. I was there. I was there when he needed me. I was there when he came home. I was there when he sat in my kitchen and ate the food I made him. I was there when he cried, and I was there when he laughed, and I was there when he did not want to talk. I did not try to fix it. I did not try to make it better. I just let him feel what he was feeling, and I let him know I was there. She had wanted me to not be part of the family. She had wanted me to go away. But I was still there. I was still his father. I was still the person who had taught him to ride a bike and helped him with his homework and sat in the stands and cheered for him. That was my revenge. The quiet revenge of being there. The quiet revenge of not giving up. The quiet revenge of letting her see, in the end, that she could not push me out. A year later, my son got married again. A different woman. A kind woman. A woman who looked at him like he was the most important person in the world. At the wedding, I gave a speech. I talked about my wife. I talked about how proud she would have been. I talked about how much she loved him. I talked about how much she would have liked this new woman, this new daughter, this new beginning. My son had stood up in the middle of my speech. He had walked over to me. He had hugged me in front of everyone. "Thank you, Dad," he said. "Thank you for staying." I had hugged him back. I had held my son, and I had felt his heart beating against my chest, and I had thought about all the years, all the fights, all the silence. I had thought about the night before the wedding, when she had told me I was not part of the family. I had thought about how I had made the hardest decision of my life, the decision to not be there, the decision to walk away. And I had thought about how that decision had saved everything. I am 65 years old now. My son has 2 children. I see them every other weekend. I make them breakfast. I teach them how to build things out of wood. I tell them stories about their grandmother, about their father, about the family they come from. I think about that night a lot. I think about what would have happened if I had gone to the wedding. I think about what would have happened if I had given that speech, the one that did not mention my wife, the one that was full of nothing but empty words. I think about what she wanted. I think about what she tried to do. I think about how she tried to erase me, to push me out, to make me small. But I am still here. I am still my son's father. I am still the person who taught him who he is. And that is enough. If this story resonated with you, join our channel by liking and subscribing for more real, raw, and family-centered stories. Thank you for listening. I'll see you in the next one.